Today, my guest is Liz McDade. Liz and I met on a group called Podcast Guest, I think.
Yeah.
And you said that you were interested, and I was totally into that. So Liz you have a shop. You are a crafter. You are doing zero waste. You're
hmm
like, oh my gosh, I just love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for you to talk about all of these things because you also told me just before we started recording, oh, I also have a podcast.
That's right. I do.
So, where shall we start? Let's see. Crafting.
hmm
You Oh, let's just so sewing. Sewing. You do a lot of sewing stuff and you
Yes.
are teaching some sewing
Yes.
projects?
Yeah, that's right. So I love working with my hands, and sewing is probably my favorite crafty hobby. And I started sewing more several years ago when, as a family, we were trying to cut waste that we were creating. Several years ago, I learned about the zero waste movement, and I got really excited by the challenge of trying to cut waste in my own family with my kids and my husband. So I realized at that time there are a few really simple tools that would help us as a family to shop differently and bring home less trash and less packaged items. So I started sewing again a lot more several years ago to create just really simple drawstring bags and
Oh, okay.
um,
I was going to ask
more.
what those tools were.
Yeah, so like just a simple cloth drawstring bag has changed the way we shop. So we get so much of our food we get now in our own cloth bags. And then I also made some little sandwich bags and snack bags and
Ooh.
100% cotton lunch bags, things that just wouldn't end up in the landfill at the end of their life. Things that could just be composted at home. Like you can easily compost
Right.
cotton fabric.
Well, and even if they
So
did end up in the landfill, they're not going to like last forever. I mean, once
right. In theory, they would break down in a landfill if they were, yeah, if they were
exposed to.
exposed to some oxygen. But yeah, so I started making things, and I started also selling my bags and other products to help other people cut waste. And then at some point I realized I'd rather teach people to DIY than be mass producing. It just felt like a more sustainable way to help people make good changes in their life. So then I started really focusing on teaching other people how to sew really simple things in a sustainable way. And yeah, I started a YouTube channel. I have a bunch of tutorials on my website, and then I also teach some in-person classes as well. So I've kind of gone pretty much all in on teaching at this point. I do still sell some of the things that I make because I'm always making things. I'm always trying to figure out how to put even the tiniest scrap of fabric to good use.
Hmm.
So I'm always creating things, and in my tutorials I'm creating things. So I do have like some inventory that I sell here and there. But for the most part, now I'm trying to help teach others how to my one of my lines is get crafty, not trashy. So that's kind of what I'm going for.
Oh, that's going to be the podcast title. That's
Excellent.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm writing it down right now. Thank
Good.
you. You just
You're
saved me some
welcome.
time.
That's the goal.
Yeah, for sure. That's very cool. And I'm so going to be on your YouTube channel because do you do like a class on doing the bags because
Yes. Yes,
or like the
absolutely.
sandwich bags?
Yeah, so I have several tutorials on my YouTube channel for how to make a drawstring bag, how to make a reusable cotton sandwich bag. And then I also have a whole actually online course that's called Sew Your Way to a Zero Waste Kitchen. So if
Stop
people,
it.
yeah, So if people are interested in that, I have a online class with pre-recorded videos and a bunch of handouts. As long as you can operate your machine, you can sew everything that you need to cut a lot of waste in your kitchen. So things like, unpaper towels and cloth napkins. So things like that are really simple to make. Yeah, and I have little like bowl covers, cloth bowl covers.
Oh.
Yeah. So
How do the bowl covers stick?
I use a cotton elastic.
There's a cotton elastic?
There is. Yeah, there's an elastic. There is.
You are blowing my mind, Liz.
Yeah. I know. So this is the other thing, Amy, before we started recording, I was telling you, getting crafty and sewing isn't necessarily inherently a sustainable craft. Like there's a lot of stuff out there that is made of plastics. Polyester is a form of plastic. So I had to really, when I started on this journey, I had to really think about how can I make things in a way that's not going to actually end up as trash. That's not going to be increasing the demand for plastics. So that's been a big journey for me, just researching and finding alternatives. And, I don't have a totally plastic-free sewing studio. I mean, there is plastic around me, but there are so many options out there. There's fully compostable elastic that's made with natural rubber and organic cotton. It will break down in your home compost. And then I also work with upcycled materials, so things that are being diverted from the landfill. And some of those might not be compostable, but I use a company called 4Days to recycle. You've heard of them? Yeah. So they recycle textiles and they turn it into like insulation and other things. So for all of my fabric that I can't repurpose and I can't compost, I send it to 4Days. And then I also I also have a 𝗤𝗏cycle box. Have you heard of 𝗤𝗏cycle?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you might be able to see it if behind me.
Oh, I just see the recycled, but yeah, that's what that is.
So that's for like random bits of plastic that end up in my space that I can't repurpose or recycle, goes to 𝗤𝗏cycle, and then they have specialty recycling programs. So so anyhow, long story short, there is cotton elastic. There are a lot of alternatives out there. There are zippers that are made with cotton and metal. So I try not to purchase any nylon or polyester. I use organic cotton thread, organic cotton fabric, or recycled cotton. So there's
it's so hard these days. There's just so much synthetic.
There is
everything.
Yeah.
Even if you're thinking, oh, I just need something breathable and light, it's like not cotton.
Yeah, I know. It is hard to avoid. So that's been part of my learning process, is just trying to figure out where to find the most sustainable materials to work with.
Right.
And sometimes those are recycled and they're not all natural, but they're being diverted from the landfill, which is also really important. And then at the end of their life, they can be recycled if you get like a 4Days bag, go back bag, they're called. So,
That's really cool. I mean, I think it's a totally honorable thing to, always be trying. And it doesn't mean you're going to be like super sustainable person instantly. It's, as we learn, as we can afford it, as we grow, we can add new things or, take things away, or, you're not going to start off being like organic cotton, everything. It's something that, you have to like go through what you have, or, you can purchase all new, but then you have this wasted stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I always tell people in my tutorials, use what you have first. That's the most sustainable option, is to use up what you have already acquired versus going out and buying all new organic cotton fabric and thread and all that. Just work with what you have. And then when you're ready to purchase something else, then you can make a more sustainable choice. You can go to like a fabric upcycler, or, you could get some new organic cotton fabric, which uses way less water and is better for the farmers, better for the earth. But yeah, definitely, like the first thing is to use what you have and don't go out and buy a bunch of new stuff.
Right. I mean, I was thinking when you were talking about your fabric bags, like we have the reusable bags, which I know have like polyester, plastic. I don't even know what is in them, but they're clearly not natural fibers.
Yeah, right.
And so I'm like, okay, as these go, like I need a plan B because I don't want to use those anymore. But we also have another thing I was going to ask you about for crafting. Like I have feed bags. We have chickens. We have dogs and cats. Like, do you have a pattern or a class or something for like making those cool tote bags with just like straps?
Yeah, I have several tote bag tutorials on my channel. I love making tote bags because, I mean, that's one of the other really easy things you can do to cut trash is to bring your own tote bag for your groceries. So that's one that I love to teach. I don't have one that's specifically about the feed bags. I don't think I've done anything with that material on my channel.
Okay.
But I bet you could find someone else who has specifically upcycled those bags into something.
Oh, for sure. I know there are lots of people that do it. I don't know. I will figure it out someday. But the whole like, I'm afraid of my sewing machine. I don't want to make a mistake thing. But I love so much about that. I love so much about that. And so you said that you sell some things in your shop. Is your shop like on Etsy or something, or is it just?
Yeah, I have an Etsy shop, and I have my website has a blog and a shop. So you can get certain things from me on there. I sell some of my organic cotton fabric. So I've actually designed with a graphic designer. I created a few prints for when I was doing more of the mass production. I had my own prints, and I still love those fabrics. So I sell those by the yard. And then I also sell some zero waste sewing patterns. So people who want to create like a lunch bag, for example, without creating any waste. I have patterns that use zero waste sewing is this sort of niche area of sewing that uses like the whole length of fabric and tries not to create any scraps in cutting of the pattern. And so I have several patterns for bags that don't create any waste in the process. So those are for sale. And then I do have some things like reusable, fabric napkins and snack and sandwich bags. I have a few of those things on my website too. Oh, and I almost forgot. I also make wax wraps. So wax kitchen wraps. They're like an alternative to plastic cling wrap. They cling, and you can wash them and use them again and again. And when they're totally grubby and beyond cleaning, you can compost them, or you can use them as little fire starters if you do like a little outdoor fire pit. But anyhow, I sell the DIY kits if folks want to get my special blend. It's beeswax and pine sap and organic coconut and jojoba oil. So I sell these little blend bars, vegan versions and beeswax versions in my shop too. So
for the wrap, so you just wraps. Like melt that and put your fabric in. Shoot.
Exactly. Yeah, and it comes with instructions to show you how you can either melt your bar in a little pan, or you can use a grater, and grate your bar over your fabric. So, yeah, so I sell those too.
Of course you do. That's so great. That is so great. So you had talked about zero waste with kids, and you said that you and your family started a zero waste plan, and you said your kids are 12 and 15. Yes. But you started like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So they were not 12 and 15.
Yeah, they were a lot younger. Yeah. When I got inspired, as a family, we've always tried to be careful about, the impact, our footprint, our carbon footprint. Like, we don't have a dryer. We haven't had a dryer for 10 years. And we compost all of our food scraps and hair and tissues. And, we do a lot. We were already doing a lot. And then when I learned about zero waste, I got the family excited about this challenge, this idea of like, how much trash can we cut from our life? And most of our trash is from food shopping and the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So we started making changes and swapping out food that was packaged for food that we could get in bulk and things that we could make on our own, or food that we could get in like a paper bag or a glass jar versus plastic. So we started making all these little swaps, and and my kids have always been excited about it. It can be a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge for anyone. And when you're a child, I think it can be even more of a challenge, because you're not always planning ahead as much as we do as adults. Like, as adults, we're always in the future, like, what's next, but as kids, there might just be kind of going along, and all of a sudden an opportunity for Starbucks pops up, and they're, yes, I want that. And so they don't have a cup with them. And, so there's it makes a lot of sense. It's not always as easy for kids. And so that's been something that, we talk about, and I try to keep it, it's not like, it's not supposed to be like a punishment for them. It's supposed to be something that they're excited about. And we aren't perfect. And there's a lot of things that we get because we're not willing to give up, for example, vegan ice cream. So we buy ice cream. We have made it before. But usually we buy ice cream, and we buy a few other things that we sometimes we make it, but it's just a lot. It can be a lot of work to try to do the homemade version of everything.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm like, you got to draw the line somewhere and make it doable. Otherwise, I would go crazy if I was like, can't have any plastic at all. So that's not my mentality.
Leave it right outside. It is not coming in my house.
Yeah, I'm not like that at all.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that we can do, and so that's what I focus on, and that's what we aim for.
I love that you include the kids. Like, do you ask them what they think would work well? Like, if we wanted to not bring plastic in, or if we wanted to, buy something in bulk, what do you think would be the best way to store it, or something like that? Do they have a lot of input?
Yeah. So they get to weigh in on our groceries. And there's a lot. We're lucky here. I live in Santa Cruz, California, and we have a really nice bulk store, a store that has a lot of bulk options. So I'll have them decide, like, which snacks from the bulk bins would you like to have? And so they'll weigh in on that. And then, what fruits and vegetables we're going to get. If there's a certain, my youngest daughter loves to bake. So she does a lot of baking now, which is great. Awesome. But there have also been times where I've said, okay, I'll make one of these snacks that we can't find unpackaged. Let me know, like, which one you really want. And I have, made something for them, like homemade crackers, for example. So yeah, I try to get them involved and excited. We also have a great little refillery. Do you have a refillery out?
We do have one in my town. We have one, actually.
Yeah. So my girls are older now. They're 12 and 15, and so now they're interested in like skincare and special face washes, things that I'm like so low maintenance. I don't have any of that stuff. But luckily, they can go to the local refillery, and I'm like, yes, you can get, you want that, great, but please find it in bulk.
Yep.
Yeah, bring a jar and get it in bulk, so we don't have like 17 different little plastic containers in the bathroom.
Right.
With your toner and whatever else they're using. I'm like, I don't even know what these things do, but.
Right. So I do have a question about when you're buying in bulk at your bulk food store. What do you put it in? Do you bring
It depends on what we're buying. Yeah, so we'll bring jars, or we'll bring cloth bags, or sometimes we'll just put them straight in the basket, if we don't have enough bags. Obviously, if it's a liquid like an oil or a soap, we bring a jar. Or if it's a really fine powdery thing, it's nice to put that straight into a jar. And our store has scales so that we can measure the jars and write down that weight. So then, when we check out,
you're not paying for the jar too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. So like if you can fit it in a jar, you're going to put it in a jar. I'm just thinking of like, if I were thinking of like cereal, I would I would eat like a lot of cereal. But does it come in a box? Does it come in a cardboard box? You probably don't buy cereal. You probably make granola.
No, we have, but we do not regularly make granola. Granola is one of those things you can usually find in bulk, even if the store has a very small bulk. That's a nice, easy starter swap. But our local bulk store does have cereal in bulk, and we'll just put that in a cloth bag. But then when we bring it home, we'll transfer it into jars so it stays fresh.
Got it.
So we just save all of our jars from, like peanut butter and, marinara sauce. We save all those jars and we repurpose them for storing food. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love our refill store. It's so cool. I just love, and you can test things and you can smell it. And
yes. Yeah, I love ours too. And they're really conscientious about what products they bring in and what the ingredients are and how those ingredients are sourced and everything. They do a lot of research before they bring in a new product. So
yeah. That was a game changer, having them come to my town, because it hasn't been a year, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
That they've been around, but the year before they came to our farmers market, they have a van that they would travel with, and with not all the refill stuff, but some popular stuff, which is very, very cool. And so they already had a presence in my town, and then they put a store in, which is just so cool. But I had a really cool conversation with, and I just like you're saying, like the people are really conscientious. I've had really incredible conversations with these young kids. They're maybe in their early 20s, and I was talking to a guy a couple weeks ago, and he was like, I'm making my own hair products. Wow. And we're going to be selling it here soon, as soon as I can buy all the the bulk products to be able to make it in large amounts. And he was telling me about this company in Maine that makes shampoo bars and soap and stuff like that. So I tried the one that he recommended, because the ones that they sell in the store come from farther away, like California and stuff. And so it's just, it's really cool that they're mindful about stuff like that. Like, it's cool to have, shampoo bars and natural products, but there's also like, how far is it coming? There's so many things to think about when you're doing that. I definitely feel really strongly about, having it not come from really far away.
Totally.
And then, the shampoo bars, even though they're a shampoo bar, which is really cool, like, are they full of chemicals?
Yeah.
Because I'm not cool with that either.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I'm a picky one, and I'm gonna stay picky until I can make my own, darn it. But so you were talking about crafting a low waste life. That was kind of your seller, I guess, like your tagline, which now of course is get crafty, not trashy.
Yes. Yeah. I have a couple taglines.
That's awesome. Yeah. But so before we run out of time, I want you to talk about your podcast.
Oh, sure.
Because maybe people want to listen. Maybe there are some big fans.
Maybe. It's totally unrelated to this topic, but I grew up watching a TV show called Columbo, which is kind of an oldie. but it has always had a really special place in my heart. And when the pandemic shut everything down, I thought, hey, this is a good time to start a podcast. And I decided to do a rewatch podcast of the show Columbo. And I convinced my brother to do it with me because he lives in Los Angeles and he works in the TV and film world. So he has a really cool perspective on how these shows got put together and edited. He's an editor, so how things get edited. And
that's so nice.
Yeah. So the two of us, it's just a hobby, it's just once a month we talk about an episode and we go over some of the fun details and behind the scenes, little history of who the performers are and what other work they've done. And
that's very cool.
Really
and what's it called again?
It's called 𝗔𝗶ecie Cigar Peugeot Wandering with Columbo. I'll send you the link so that if any of your listeners like the show Columbo and they want to give it a listen, it's a fun time. It's a good time.
That's so cool. Yeah, because maybe there are some Columbo fans, and you can follow. You said that you have an Instagram for the show.
Yes,
as well. So
𝗔𝗶ecie Cigar is our Instagram.
Cool.
And you can follow us on there. We share photos of moments from each episode that we really loved.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a good time. And we have a drink and a snack for each episode that's inspired by.
Oh my gosh!
So you can see what we're enjoying while we record. So yeah.
Wow. There's a lot to that. It's not just like, hey, let's rewatch the show. There's like a lot of research.
We do actually put a good amount of time into it. My brother will often read the memoirs and the autobiographies of some of the stars before we talk, which is amazing. I don't know how he reads so much. I love it. And I'll research filming locations and, costumes and things like that. So we put a good amount of work into it because we like it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So Liz, I did want to make sure to ask you, I have a few questions left. So one, I was telling you beforehand, like I love the story of where things started with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you told me that your mom taught you to sew when you were young.
Mm-hmm.
And then you didn't really do a lot with it. You said you liked to sew, but then you picked it back up. Did you already say this? Like 6 years ago?
Yes, 6 or so years ago.
Yeah.
So my mom taught me to sew when I was in middle school. I really wanted this 𝗚𝗏. Do you remember the brand 𝗚𝗏?
I do.
So they had this tote bag, this red tote bag I really wanted. My mom was like, there's no way I'm paying, whatever for that simple tote bag, but we can make one together. So that got me started. And then, I've always loved working with my hands, but it wasn't until several years ago when I learned about the zero waste movement and I decided to sort of challenge us as a family to cut back on our trash that I got back into sewing because I realized that there are a few simple tools that we could use, like a cloth drawstring bag. I could not find a plastic-free version in my local store. So that started me sewing again. It was the best way to join my love of trying to, care for our planet and work with my hands. So several years ago, I started sewing again, and then I've just gone down this journey of sewing and trying to get creative, finding ways to avoid textile waste and also repurpose little tiny scraps of fabric. So it's just been this cool experiment for myself of working with my hands in a sustainable way and then teaching others. So, now I do a ton of teaching rather than the mass production of products. I've decided it feels more sustainable to me to teach others how to DIY.
Absolutely.
So that's
and you're helping them to be more sustainable.
Yeah. So that's where my energy
that
is
satisfaction of doing it with your own hands. You're sharing that, which is a gift.
Yeah, exactly. And some people are going to want to buy it. They're not going to want to make it, and I totally get that. And then some people are going to want to learn how, and that's sort of where I can help. I'm not really making as much anymore, although I do have some things on my site, but I'm really trying to inspire people who want to learn how to make things themselves and make them in a sustainable way. So get those materials, like we've talked about, that are a more sustainable option, or using up what they already have. That's what I always say, like, use what you already have. And if you need to go buy more, try to choose the sustainable option, which can look different for different people, whatever that is. So,
right.
Yeah.
Oh man, so cool. Now, when I say the word sustainability to you, what does that mean to you?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's about leaving as small of a footprint as I can on the planet while I'm here, trying to leave behind as little wreckage as possible for my children and for their children and future generations.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. I have very similar feelings. I don't have children, but I do want to, leave the world with less than I came in with. And I can't really tell how old you are. You look really young.
Thank you.
But I grew up in the 80s, and I love the 80s. I don't remember a lot of them, but I remember just like not thinking about things, like not, it was like carefree, and everything was so fun, and we didn't really care about anything. And in that whole like decade, it was also like the decade of excess and big hair and loud engines and everything. The plastics have been pushed on us for so long. Like, this is so convenient. Everything's going to be so great. You can buy TV dinners and you don't have to cook and everything, because we're all so busy. But so for me, this is almost like it's almost like payback, sort of like I want to make up for that because it's not all my fault, obviously, but I so enjoyed it. And so I'm like, I feel like I need to give back a little bit, but I also just, I don't know, I'm not there anymore.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. I also grew up in the 80s. So.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. We didn't even think twice about how our food came to us and the packaging and the amount of trash that we created. It wasn't until I was in college and I really started to think about the environment and climate change. And so that's when I stopped eating meat and started to think more about, beyond my little world. And then, like I said, it was like 2017 when I really started to look at trash, that we were creating as a family, and that kind of became a new challenge for us. So yeah,
that's awesome. And I love that we're close to the same age. So this has been so eye-opening and so fun, and I've learned so much, and I cannot wait to just like spend hours on your YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you.
And learn to be crafty. I'm not a crafty person. I have big dreams, but I don't have crafty hands, so I gotta work on that.
You can do it.
But so if somebody like me is just so inspired and so just thrilled by everything that you're saying, and they want more, like, how can somebody find you, follow you? Where can they get more of Liz McDade?
Yeah, so the best place is my website, which is 𝗚𝗿ście𝗂𝘁.com. Okay. And I will make sure to send you the link, so it'll be in your show notes. Cool. And from there, you can find my YouTube channel. I'm also on Instagram, although I'm not super active on there, but I am on there. So you could also go straight to YouTube and search for 𝗚𝗿ście𝗂𝘁, and I would pop up on there as well. So you could, if you just want to see the video tutorials, I have tons. I have over 100 different projects. Some of my videos are actually more about cutting waste. So I do have a playlist of tips for the bathroom, tips for the kitchen, tips for back to school. And then a lot of them are sewing tutorials.
Can I ask, do you guys have a bidet?
We don't.
No?
But I know that would be really cool. that would be a nice way to avoid toilet paper waste,
right?
or at least cut down on it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We bought one at the beginning of the pandemic when my auto ship of toilet paper was canceled. And I had like the biggest panic attack. And I'm like, oh, we have to get one because there's no way. And we never hooked it up because we were afraid that it was going to be leaky. And now I'm like,
yeah.
we still have it. We'll do it.
Yeah, you should do it.
We're just intimidated. We're not like mechanically inclined people.
Yeah. We did cloth diapers with my daughters when they were little, and we installed a similar, it was like a hose, like a toilet hose, so that we could clean the diapers off in the toilet. And it was pretty easy to do. We are not plumbers, and we were able to do that. So I imagine you could get your bidet going pretty easily as well. Yeah.
Because that's a big one. That's a big one for me. Like I work from home, I podcast from home, I make jam at home. Like everything happens here. And
Yeah, we do. We get our toilet paper from 𝗚𝗿𝗄𝘁. Have you heard of them?
I have not. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it all comes in paper. It's wrapped in paper. It comes in a box. So there's no plastic involved, and they give back a lot. So I think they're a certified B Corp. So they're like doing some good with their business as well.
Awesome.
So so we can at least avoid the plastic around them. But yeah, the other thing is that I'm in California where we do not have enough water. So sometimes it's a trade-off between, creating waste versus using water. And I don't have all the answers for that, but
yes, no, true.
We do try to conserve water here, for sure. So, although I imagine a bidet is a very small amount of water. So
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I should probably research that.
That'd be really cool to, one of the things that I've talked to a lot of people about is like hydroponic gardening and how or like grow towers or something like that. Cause I love talking about food. And, somebody was saying, Joy was saying, she's in Santa Barbara, that they have these grow towers on the top of on their roof. So in super hot California, they're growing all these vegetables up there. And she said it just uses like 60% less water than a regular garden. So I'm learning so much. It's really interesting stuff because I like never had even heard of hydroponic or aquaponic gardening. And I have such a hard time with my garden. And I don't know if it's like a soil amendment that I need to do. And I keep saying that, and I still haven't tested my soil. But, if I were doing it just in water, maybe I could alleviate the things that are being a problem.
Yeah. We have a small garden, but I am not the household gardener. My husband does the gardening. So, but yeah, we've had to do a lot to our soil out here because it's almost like clay where we are. So he's done a lot of work to make the soil more fruitful, I guess. But yeah, we do grow, and we do use a a laundry soap that's suitable for like a gray water system. So we'll catch our washing machine water and then use that in the garden where appropriate, like on the trees and certain plants. So we do have it's a homemade gray water system. It's basically my husband with a bunch of buckets, like walking around the yard. We don't have the full like pipes set up or anything like that, but we do capture our water and reuse it.
Do you catch rainwater too? What rain?
We do have I know, right? Well, we got a lot of rain this winter, and we have a barrel connected to one of our downspouts, so we catch the rainwater too.
Great. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That is you guys have it going on. That's awesome. I'm so impressed.
We try. Yeah, we do what we can. We're not perfect, and I always want people to know that we're not perfect. Don't try to be perfect. It's too hard.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
It's too hard to do. It's too hard to keep up that reputation too. I mean, if someone's watching you and be like, hey, that was not perfect. Yeah. Well.
And I'm like, yes, I totally agree. I am not perfect. And yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. My goodness. You've given a lot to think about, a lot to talk about, a lot to work with. I appreciate your time so much.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Amy. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope that this conversation is helpful to your listeners too.
Heck yeah. And so everyone, go to 𝗚𝗏𝗏𝗂𝘁.com and check out the YouTube tutorials and maybe the course on, what was the course on?
It's called Sew Your Way to a Zero Waste Kitchen. And it walks you through several different projects that are very beginner friendly, that'll help you cut trash around your kitchen, help you cut down on food packaging.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. All right, very good. Thank you, Liz.